These are just recommendations.
Right, smart recommendations.
Smart recommendations based on years of study.
What works.
And what works, best practices.
Yeah.
And that's worth $1 million.
We want to talk about the 3 things that every person should think about doing when they start thinking about the security of their home.
You know, the first thing you want to do is get an assessment of your home.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times we buy a home, we move into it, we feel safe until something happens. We always talk about being preventative in what we do, right? So the first thing you can do is get an assessment. And there is an assessment out there called Cpted. That's Cpted. It stands for Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. Now, just about every police department in the country offers free Cpted.
Oh,
I don't know if you know that. Almost every police department in the country.
Well, you just call them and say, I want a Cpted
Yeah,
assessment.
you just say, hey, I would love to have your community policing officer. Now, of course, they have to have a community policing officer who's trained, but they'll come out and help you do an assessment on your home. They'll look at your landscaping, your lighting, and they'll make recommendations.
That's great.
The great thing about it is it's purely a recommendation.
Yeah.
The other great thing is that I know you allow it.
Yes.
So for the customers that are interested in your screens, we offer that ability as well.
Yeah, MJ does it.
And I'm actually a certified design person. So Cpted, what does it mean? It's a fancy term, right? Crime prevention through environmental design. So there's really 4 elements to Cpted, and that is natural surveillance. Now, what is natural surveillance? That's the ability to see out of your home and to have your home seen. All right, so we talked about neighbors, right? You want to build that coalition of neighbors that are watching each other's houses. Yeah, that's an old concept, neighborhood watch, but it still works. You know, back in the day, we always knew our neighbor, and they knew what cars were supposed to be there and what people were supposed to be there.
Our rhythm of life.
So that natural surveillance is the ability to see your neighbor's house, the ability to see your house, and then to recognize when somebody's approaching that doesn't belong. It also deters people from engaging in criminal activity because they have no place to hide because you have that natural surveillance built into your program.
Because someone driving by or walking by can see that person try to break in.
Exactly.
If there are good lines of sight there.
Exactly. Now, another component is territorial reinforcement. Now, territorial reinforcement is it can be done with landscaping, right? So look at some of the beautifully landscaped properties that have these hedges, but it separates their property from the public side to the private side. But it's all part of that territorial boundary.
Fencing?
Fencing. Yeah, fencing is probably the #1 thing that we do out here. And you know, out here in Vegas, everything's made of concrete. So you got all these concrete walls, but that is that's a territorial symbol that shows where the boundaries are. Okay.
Like a do not cross.
Yeah, well, hey, I walk up to your house and you got dual gates on each side, but they're closed with iron gates. Yeah, that's not for me to go back there. That's, you've already distinguished
it's
that.
It's demarcated. It's pretty clear to everyone.
You've marked it.
I just want to point out on that whole fencing thing, you had mentioned to me that the newer fencing is much smarter. It has kind of like the horizontal piece, open area, and then another horizontal piece, so you can actually see through the fencing, whether you're on the inside of the home looking out or the outside looking in.
And that's part of that surveillance that we just talked about. So you build in surveillance where you can see. So you get some privacy, but you can still also see through it. If you have solid walls, I can't see what's going on behind the wall once somebody jumps over that wall.
Yeah, so the bad guy actually is welcoming that, as long as there aren't a couple Dobermans on the other side, right?
Exactly.
Because no one can see what he or they are doing, because there's no good line of sight.
Exactly. Now you get into access control. That's going to be the locking systems. That's going to be how you prevent people from gaining access to your property.
Your next layer.
That's your next layer of security. And then probably the most important and often most missed is maintenance. It's very important that you maintain all the systems, that you maintain your landscaping, right? There's a rule in landscaping for Cpted. It's called the 2-foot, 6-foot rule. And the theory is that if you keep your shrubbery 2 feet or less and the canopy of your trees 6 feet or higher, it can't conceal a person.
2 foot.
Right, because I mean, if I hunker down behind this, imagine this is solid, I can get down here and you can't see me anymore. But if it was 2 feet tall, I can't get hunkered down far enough. I mean, I'd have to really get down. And so landscaping becomes like, it becomes one of our biggest enemies. People let their yards get overgrown. They let trees overgrow, or they plant things in front of windows. Well, how is somebody going to see, the natural surveillance? How am I going to know somebody's breaking into your home if you got this giant bush in front of your window? So it's all about making sure that you evaluate the potential threat locations within your home. And then we also have to talk about lighting, right? Because that's part of the surveillance side. So Cpted is a very, very critical tool to help you assess your home. So that's really the first part of what you want to do. Now, the neat thing about Cpted is it's a take it or leave it. You don't have to do it. These are just recommendations.
Smart recommendations.
Smart recommendations based on years of study.
What works.
And what works, best practices. And so I think it's important for everyone to educate themselves. There's plenty of information out there on the internet regarding Cpted. So again, if you want to look at it, it's Cpted, stands for Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. And there's a lot of great information. There's checklists that you can download, and you can do it yourself.
Assessment,
you can do it yourself, or you can have somebody who's professionally certified come out and help you.
Okay, Cpted's a good first start. What's the
great first start. So now you want to talk about hardening the target. And that's what Cpted does. When you start looking at your home, you put a door handle in, right? You do that all the time. How big are the screws that come with those?
They're normally pretty short.
Yeah, they're about that long.
Cheap.
Yeah, they're cheap, right? Because a longer screw is going to cost more money. More money. So part of Cpted is looking at the locking systems and how you mount those things. The style of door that you have. Is it hollow core? Is it solid core? Do you have only 1.5 inch screw going into the frame, or do you have a 3.5 inch screw that's going not only through the framing, but or through the door jamb, but all the way into the wood framing of the home?
Studs.
So you want to build those things up. You want to make those things more robust. And then, in terms of locking systems, there are deadbolts, of course, and a whole variety of latching systems. And again, we wrote a blog about this.
We did.
Yeah, we wrote a blog about the different latching systems that are out there. And I had always encouraged people, the great thing about your website is that there's just a ton of content on there.
Your content.
My content, well, it's our content, that helps homeowners take a look at what they can do to make their place safer.
Yeah, and that's relatively inexpensive and relatively easy to do. And you get a really big return from it, right?
You really do.
Yeah. Now, a lot of breaches are just someone kicking down a door.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and there's really 2 entry points that people, they love the sliders, right? Because they're made of glass.
No good line of sight there, right?
I don't need a special tool. Right. I just need that big rock that you have in the landscape.
Yeah, the paver works.
Throw it through the window.
And it's designed to just...
It just collapses and then they're in.
In and out.
Or a door kick. Usually it's usually a back door, but it could be a front door.
Or a side garage door or something
or
like
side garage doors.
And it doesn't really take a lot of strength to do that. We should probably do a couple videos of us kicking down doors. The message is for those of us who have production homes. A manufacturer of a home, they're building developments, they're not spending money on tough doors.
Correct.
They're not spending money on more secure installs of those doors. They're really looking at how can I get this home up as quickly as I can and get it sold, right? So a lot of these production homes are already pretty vulnerable because no thought, no energy has been put into hardening them.
Exactly. Yeah. So now if you want to talk about security in terms of layers, right? Because very seldom, and I'm going to use very seldom, do you run across something that works every time. And I'm going to use it as a caveat because that's the funny story of how I came to be here with you at BOSS Security Screens, is that this is the only security measure that I've ever seen work 100% of the time. Yeah. And so for that, that's kudos to you and your company for developing something so technologically advanced that it can handle and withstand those kind of penetrations. But when you layer security, a lot of people feel comfortable having an alarm system. Now, I am not a big fan of having an alarm system that is wired and dependent upon some company that is going to be over on the East Coast. And then you've got to have a call go to the East Coast so that they can dispatch a security guard in your town who has to drive across town to get to your home.
Not going to get there.
By the time they get there, it's been 2 hours. And that burglary's already occurred. They're in and out. All they're doing is showing up to tell you that your house got burglarized. I saw one alarm system work, and it was a standalone alarm system with internal and external audibles, and it had a strobe light.
Oh, so they could signal anyone who looked outside could see which home was being used.
It was strobing, and the volume was so loud. The decibels were deafening, and everyone in the neighborhood knew that house was getting broke into. As soon as the bad guy kicked the front door, that interior exterior audible went off with the lights and the siren, and he ran. But under most circumstances, a silent alarm system, they're going to be in and out in 3 to 5 minutes. And by the time police get notified or a burglary alarm system notifies a company, they're long gone. So those standalone systems, I'm a big fan. And my system is standalone. The only thing you got to do is make sure that the battery gets changed, in the main battery panel for backup, because if a bad guy decides they want to try to break into my house by cutting my power, they're not going to cut my power because I have a backup battery system. So it's still going to operate.
You want to keep a little lock on there.
Absolutely.
Anything we can do to make it harder for anyone to do what they're trying to do is good security.
And I think what James is referring to is on the power box on the side of your house, it has a tab on your breaker box so that you can put a padlock through there. You definitely want to padlock that so nobody goes over to your panel and just shuts down your power. That way you've got lights inside the house and access to
everything.
So
it's good you have the battery backup. I like the Simply Safe. I'm not affiliated with them, but it is really simple to set up, the Simply Safe security system. So it used to be, not too long ago, where you really had to hire someone to do all this stuff, and you still can. But from the cameras to the alarms, it really doesn't take a lot of technical know-how to set it up. You get it done in an hour.
Yeah, most of your camera systems nowadays are all plug and play.
Even adhesives.
There's not a lot of install.
It's great for us consumers.
Peel and stick. Everything's on there. And these batteries that these cameras come with, they last 3-4 years now.
As we set up these systems, I just want to be sure that people are testing them. So it's one thing to set it up and think that everything's okay, but it's another thing to actually test it. Am I getting the recording? Am I getting the alerts? Am I getting the signal of the alarm? In this case, we set up the strobing light. Is all that stuff working? And test it not only after it's been installed, but periodically. How many times have you gone to someone, there's been a break-in, and they have the cameras, and you go, okay, show me the footage, and they're like, well, it wasn't recording.
Yeah, that happens more times
than half the time it happens, right? Everyone's got the equipment, everyone's got the system, but it ain't working.
It isn't working.
No one tested it.
Or when was the last time you cleaned your camera? If you don't clean the lenses, all you're doing is looking at the grime and dirt on the outside of the lens cover.
All these things just take a couple minutes to be sure it's working perfectly.
And we talk about investing in your safety. It takes maintenance. And remember, that's the fourth element of Cpted is maintenance. If you don't maintain all of the systems that you put in place, they really do set it up for failure. So what do we have right here in front of us?
Well, this is a security screen. You can probably see this one too. We make them for doors. We make them for windows. We make them for sliders. We make them for patio enclosures, French doors, even doggy doors. And the secret sauce is this mesh. And the mesh is stainless steel. And if you were to touch it, you'd realize, oh, there's no easy breach here. And that's why we have everything from the hatchet. You got to put the glasses on. This thing. There's really no easy way to get in. And I tell everyone the bad guys are dumb, but they're not stupid, right? They're not looking for the toughest place to break into. They're looking for the easiest one. And I feel in a blink, they can discern this stuff pretty easily. Like, that home's more vulnerable than that one. So why are we gonna fuss with this one? Unless there's a Picasso in there, right? If there's a Picasso in there, it's gonna attract a different type of...
Exactly. But they're all looking for a soft target. They're not looking for the hardened target. And the thing I love about your system is that it, one, projects that hardened target look while still being elegant on your home. In my career, very rarely do I see something that works every time. And the thing that has impressed me about being affiliated with your company and with this product is that it hasn't failed.
No, 15,000 installs over 7 years, 0 break-ins.
0 break-ins. You know, and you have a no break-in guarantee.
We guarantee it.
You guarantee it. So, you know, when you talk about layering your security, you can't go wrong putting these these screens, because they also have a solar effect. But these security screens here are the best in the business, and it is part now of all of my recommendations when I go out to do Cpted is to talk to homeowners about the quality and the preventative protection that these things give over just hardening the target like screws and locks. If you have this on every penetration of your home, you can sleep at night and know that you're safe.
And that's worth $1 million.
And that's worth $1 million.
Let's go through quick summary. Number one,
Cpted. And Cpted has 4 components, right? So we have the natural surveillance, you've got territorial reinforcement, you have access control, and then most importantly, you got your maintenance.
Talk to those neighbors.
Talk to your neighbors. Get to know who your neighbors are. And then you want to go, after you do your initial assessment with your home, you want to go through and follow with some of the recommendations. Harden the target, upgrade your equipment, maintain your equipment. And then if you want to do the ultimate, right? If you want to be ultimately safe, put a screen on every penetration, every door, every window, and you'll be covered.
Snug as a bug.
Love it.